Phrase it.
31.
All
right, let's get this under motion. This is the March full council meeting, and it is March 28th, and it is 6:31. And right now we need to have, we're going to call it to order, and I also need somebody to start reading some names.
All right, Daryl Bailey. Here. Ryan Bailey. Here. Laura Brewer.
Here.
Eric Burns. Here. Jamie Keller. Jackie Dishaw. Everett Ferguson. Diane Gary. Dean. Present. Jeremy Harris. Present. Brett Hauser. Katie Holm.
Here.
Betty Huggins.
Here.
David Hall. Present. Fiona.
Here.
Sandy Johnson.
Here.
Gloria Lansdale.
Here.
Bill Little.
Here.
Kevin Lightfoot.
Yep.
Brian Mace.
Here.
Mike Moss.
Here.
Rich Mumford.
Here.
Terry Phillips.
Yes.
Ben Pearson.
Here.
Aaron Reese.
Here.
Tad Smith. Matt Sproul. Here. Eric Williams.
Yes.
Donna and John. Roll call complete.
All right, sir. The only new one on our list is actually Ben Pearson. So welcome to the entertainment. All right, we do have a person from the URMC.
Howdy, everybody.
Hi, Howdy.
Appreciate you giving me a few minutes of your valuable time. Some of you I know, a few familiar faces out there. Some of you probably don't know me, but my name is Adam Opplinger. I played EMS for a little while now, and I used to work for Mercy Flight, and I trained Aaron and all that fun stuff. But I am now the Injury Prevention Outreach Coordinator up at Strong in the trauma program. So some of you may have seen my name in various emails, or sometimes I will reach out via Facebook Messenger if I can't get a hold of anybody. I'm the guy that calls you up or tries to get your attention so that we can get a copy of your PCR. And I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk about what that means and why we're looking for them, because I think there's sometimes a little bit of confusion when somebody from Strong emails you and says, hey, we need a copy of your PCR for this patient. So as you guys may or may not know, Strong being a level 1 trauma center has to participate in a national trauma data bank. And there's about 1,574 different things that the registrars look for in every patient contact, and a lot of those come from EMS charts. So your various different EMS PCRs, and it goes all the way back to the first point of contact, which is why a lot of times, for example, if you put your patient on a helicopter, the helicopter brings the patient to University of Rochester. We get the helicopter's PCR. We don't always necessarily see your PCR. And so that's when I contact you and say, hey, can you send me a copy of your PCR? That's really all we're looking for, just so that we can get it into the hands of the registrar so they can get complete injury data for every patient that comes in. Another situation where you might see us asking for PCRs, particularly sometimes 2 or 3 months after the call actually occurred, we look at every injured patient that comes through the doors, whether they're seen by the trauma service or not. So there's a specific subset of patients called SPARCS patients that we see about a month later, and that's all based on hospital ICD-10 diagnosis codes. So those patients are injured, they end up going into the trauma data bank, but they may have never been seen by the trauma service. So we've never looked for their PCR before. So that's why sometimes you're seeing me, or sometimes it's the registrars that do it, but we really try to funnel everything through me now, so you're not getting multiple requests from people who you may or may not know. And I'm trying to get out and about and reintroduce myself to people or introduce myself to new folks if you've never met me before. So we're trying to funnel all those requests through me. So that's why you may see sometimes, again, 2, 3, 4 months later, we're looking for a chart that you did. It's not that you did anything wrong. It's not that we're trying to find any problems. It's literally just so that we can have that information to put it in the trauma database. I'm also the guy that sends out all the follow-ups for all the level 1 and level 2 activations. So anybody that comes in as a level 1 or level 2 activation, I go through I look at your charts, I read your charts. There's a few points of data that we're specifically looking for from the trauma center standpoint, i.e., was there pre-hospital notification made? What was your scene time? Did you do active things to try to minimize hypothermia and keep your patients warm? Those are really only the 3 data points that we're looking for. The other thing that comes in those follow-up sheets is what we find on our initial and sometimes later on evaluations, depending on how long it takes me to get through all these charts. So you'll get back information about what kind of injuries we found. And usually I'll throw in there, maybe a couple suggestions for improvement on those charts. Again, it's not that we think you did anything wrong or that you're evil or anything like that, but we want you guys to have this information, and it's a free flow of information back and forth. So if you do see my name come across your radar in an email or something like that, looking for a PCR, that's all it is. That's really what we're trying to do. The other thing that I wanted to just take a few minutes to talk about is, I was talking with Ryan back there a little bit about it, is, again, it's funny to stand here and look out the window and say this right now, but EMS week is coming up, not too long from now, and the trauma program at Strong. So the trauma program literally has a chunk of land in New York State that goes from Ontario Lake down to the Pennsylvania border. And the way we approach this is like when you guys have a trauma patient in the back of your truck, you're not an individual ambulance with a trauma patient in the back of your truck. You're part of the trauma system. So we're planning on having a recognition event on Friday of EMS week, and we are actively looking for some really good cases to recognize people for. There's going to be an in-person portion, which will take place at the Public Safety Training Facility in Rochester, but we're also going to open it up to Zoom so that if we have some farther out cases and not everybody can make it up there, we want you to still be able to participate in that. So if you guys know of any good cases that have happened in the last year or so, if you could send them my way, that would be extraordinarily helpful for me. Our performance improvement coordinator generated me a list of EMS encounters where there was some sort of a treatment given by EMS, but I'm talking about hundreds of patients. So I've been trying to plow through that and find like the most seriously injured patients who had a good outcome, and then go through and see who we can recognize. We have 3 good cases that we're going to recognize already. But again, if anybody knows of a good case where EMS made an active difference, then please send that information to me. I'll leave a little pile of my business cards here on the desk. It's got all my contact information on it. Again, we really would like this to be a system-wide recognition event. So as long as I'm up here, does anybody have any questions for me about the trauma program at University of Rochester, or what happens to your patients when you send them up to that gigantic mess of a hospital that we call Strong, and you never hear or see from them again? All right, I guess I've done well. Yes, sir.
Adam, with the proposed expansion of the Strong ED that was released last week, what's that going to do for the critical care base size? Will that be an increase?
So yeah, we're really pretty excited about that. And again, this is kind of preliminary information, but the size of the critical care bay is going to significantly increase, and there are going to be so the plan right now is that there are going to be designated areas for different types of patients. So there's going to be a cardiovascular critical care bay, and there's going to be a neurocritical care bay. And yes, there is going to be a trauma critical care bay. We're supposed to have 7 rooms dedicated for use for trauma patients. Now, everybody knows how things go. As soon as that ER fills up, and it will fill up just like our current ER fills up, people are going to start looking at those rooms going, hey, we can put a stroke patient over there, or we can put a cardiac patient over there. But as it is right now, that's the plan. The emergency department is going to include a significantly redesigned and hopefully improved drop-off loop for EMS. I think with it, instead of like the sort of the canopy drive-through area. There's actually going to be, I want to say, somewhere between 15 and 20 bays for you to actually back your truck up into and drop your patient off. So it's going to be pretty big. The emergency department is going to over triple from its current size to what it's going to be. I think it's going to be around 175,000 square feet. It's going to be pretty big. So
Throw some acute care floors on top of that. So
yeah. There's going to be I think it's a 9-story tower that they're going to build. And
So everybody's going to towers these days.
yeah, everybody's into towers.
they get you a second helipad back finally?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. The other thing that we are actively engaging the hospital administration on is a second helipad. So it's definitely needed.
They built a tower on your last one.
What's that?
They built a tower on your last one.
They did. I know.
I know.
And so our idea, and I will say it's not mine, it's Dr. Destring's idea for the second helipad would be, if you've ever seen the one now, it's you go up on an elevator, you come out, you turn left, you go out on the roof, the helipad's out there. The other helipad would be over on the right, so they would be sort of on opposite sides of where the elevator is. But definitely needed. The hospital is not going to do anything other than get busier over the next 10, 15 years. And there are a lot of helicopters in and out of there. So it gets to be, it's a little hairy sometimes. So yeah, we're looking forward for the new ER. Unfortunately, it's still going to be about 6 or 7 years, I think, until it's completed. Although they are starting construction already. So, and theoretically, there's not going to be any interruption in the operation of the current emergency department. But again, we all know how that goes. So I suspect there will be some traffic rerouting and things like that. And we, as the trauma program, we'll do our best to keep you guys updated with all those things. So. Anything else for me? As I tell everybody, I'm the trauma guy, and my job is mainly to do trauma. And if you have any trauma-related questions or concerns, you can always contact me. I've also been in EMS long enough to know that you don't get enough feedback. One of the things that we try to do at the trauma program is to get you feedback as quickly as possible. That's one of the things I've really focused on since I started at the end of the year. It's not always possible. I spend, I would say, somewhere between 20 and 25 hours a week gathering PCRs, reviewing charts, putting the follow-up forms together, sending them back out, and it's only supposed to be a third of my job. So I do other things as well. But if you have a question about a different type of patient, cardiac, stroke, whatever, reach out to me. I'll find out for you. I mean, it's the least we can do to get you guys a little bit of feedback on the patients that you bring up to us. So, and it's not always as easy with the other services. And I do have access, through the charting system to every patient in the hospital. So please feel free to contact me if you need some information. I'm happy to help out. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. I appreciate it, and it's good to see some of you, and good to meet all of you at this point. And as I said, I'll leave some cards up there if you want to grab one. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, shall we move on? Right now we're up to minutes of last meeting 2 months ago. Did everybody get the email? And are there any questions or changes needed? We have a motion to accept this. Brian? Second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Good, then we'll move on. We're going to go into committee meetings. Do we have a secretary? Anything?
No. Due to the fact that some people showed up tonight. Nobody is in danger. So.
Well, close.
All is well.
All is well.
All is well.
Treasurer's report.
We received email.
I didn't hear, sorry. Yeah, one here to take care of the other. Did everybody receive the treasurer's report? If so, need somebody to approve it?
So,
And
Motion
seconded.
by Sandy and second by who?
Ted.
Ted. Those in favor? Any opposed? And we go on to the next one, training ed.
I emailed out a report the other day.
Hopefully everybody got to look at it. If so, I need a motion.
So moved.
So one of the main points, if everyone's not aware, for training ed, is the New York State extended everybody's certification for 1 more year. So some people, this is a 5-year process. And we're told that each of you in the next, they're saying 1 to 2 months, so probably 3 to 4 realistically. Each individual will be able to set up their own health commerce system so that you can even print out your EMT certifications.
just your own.
Figure out how it is. All right, everybody in favor of this meeting? Section of this meeting?
Who seconded that? I don't believe we got the second. Ted made the motion.
I'll second.
All right. On the executive?
So, the only thing I know of the executive is, they agreed upon, we have begun following suit with everybody else with credit card usages. So, credit card companies charge us on average anywhere between 2 and 3%, or up to 3.5%. For all of you folks that use the rewards-based credit card. So we are now passing that fee along to the individual who's using the card to save the council. That seems to be the way a lot of small businesses are going. And we worked with our partners at Paycheck, so everything is legal and on the up and up. So we're not doing anything that we're not supposed to be doing. That's all I know for executive.
All right. All right, we have a motion
I don't think it was really a report versus information, so.
for that. Okay, we'll keep going.
Yeah.
Anybody doing public relations anymore?
Yes, I have a couple of things. So we have a summer class offerings that we're gonna offer. And we usually do something in the papers and not-for-profit advertising them, trying to see if we can get some new ones in. With the extension, additional year extension, I think probably core and refreshers are gonna be a little tough to bring them in for the summer, but we might get a few. You never know. So the plan would basically be for try to get originals up and running. So I'm asking here, we have a little blip that we've had for 30-some years that goes in the paper with the course offerings. And that, is there anybody here that would like to rewrite something, trying to encourage people to come into the EMS profession and take the class? That's just my little blip.
I fought beers pretty well. I didn't win.
I started.
And with with that, as an additional thing, is, do we want to put anything in the papers and that for EMS week from the council? And if so, who wants to put it together and post it to the papers? I mean, you got what, three major papers, because you got Canandaigua, Finger Lakes, and the Wayne County, correct? What else is in Wayne County, or just one paper?
Wayne County Times.
Oh, Yates County's got the Chronicle of Distress. So there'd be four. What are you laughing at? It's been going on for years. So there'd be four papers to present in our. So does anybody want to undertake that? To write up something, or?
I nominate Dave Hubble.
And that's cool.
Third that.
Second. Yeah, I'd be glad to take a look at it and see what you guys have done. It needs to be right now.
Well, the article for the paper for the class says well, I mean, for something for EMS, we don't really have anything.
Design something flashy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put something that's good.
That's not a problem. Yeah.
But that's everybody else's agreement. This is not just, I mean, I said public relations, but the whole issue is we need to spark something here, people.
Well, not only that, I think a press release about EMS week can be a conduit to educate the public on what EMS does and how it kind of works in the region. So, I guess if we need to formally approve this from the full council, I make a motion that we put a press release in the paper for the summer class offerings and for EMS week from the council.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor? Any opposed?
Does anybody else have any other ideas?
Statistics on how many people we affect within our communities. You know, I don't think people think of us until the day where 911 needs to be called and then we magically appear, but
Well, I think Dave will kind of put that into the
So,
fact.
interesting statistic for EMS providers that the state just put out. There's roughly 70,000 current certified providers in New York State. Of those, there's only 35,000 that are doing anything, that are appearing on charts. And that's across all levels. All levels. So, I mean, that speaks volumes.
And I have an article here that I showed John today that was in Syracuse. The Syracuse residents might receive bill from firefighters filling in for private ambulance in Syracuse. And Brian, you can choke in on this if you want. AMR doesn't have enough buses and folks and they have to cover all their calls, so the Syracuse Fire Department is filling in 2 buses for them. And they're trying to figure out how they're gonna be able to try to recoup some expense, because that's a lot of money.
That bus, those 2 trucks that Syracuse put up, is entirely staffed by overtime too. So I got a couple friends that are Syracuse Fire and the paramedics are like, well, yeah, I'll go take an ambulance shift for double pay. They love it.
Well, it's not only just, everybody is at a crunch, except for Canada.
I think everybody goes on to now.
They do.
Term roller coaster.
Yeah. So I think we need to let the public know.
Don, are these something you were looking to run in tandem, or are there 2 separate?
It would be 2 separate things, because for the advertisement, the class starts June 2nd, so I would need something that could go in fairly quick to advertise for this.
Also, up to the office, probably one thing.
But for EMS week, we need something that's splash for EMS week. Yeah.
Matter of ambulance insurance waiver.
Gloria?
Well, John mentioned there's 70,000 certified medics in the state. 35,000 are active. So instead of putting all of our efforts into trying to recruit new people, just think if you could reactivate that other 35,000. And if they aren't active, can we find out why? Can we also find out what would make them active again?
That's, that's a big
I mean, you might
question.
not get all 35,000 of them back, but you might get even half that back. Look at the cost it would save. You wouldn't have to put new students through the classes. You could just bring back some of the ones that have drifted away from us.
And keep in mind, a lot of it, after 2 years of the pandemic, is all burnout. People that are just walking away because they're tired. I mean, it's happening in.
Yes, for a lot of them, but is that all of them? I mean, why did half of them walk away? That's a lot of people.
Sure. I don't think there's any one answer for that question.
But if we could entice some of them to come back.
Ben?
I think a big thing where we're gonna need to find new providers is the younger generation, people coming up through high school and stuff. BOCES finally has this program in our area, which I've been doing it in Monroe County, and they're trying to get out in Wayne County. Maybe going into the schools, because no kids read newspapers or anything like that anymore. They don't see it on Facebook, it's not true. Where if we went to some of these 10th grade classes and pressed EMS a little more, maybe get more people involved in that system, that's what's up and coming, that's what's getting young people involved. Let's try to reach out to the schools or BOCES.
Some of the BOCES are offering the course.
I know they only have like 11 kids in that class.
Right, but they put the flyers go out to all the schools. Tyler goes out to all the schools when they have their open house to try to entice the kids into coming into it. I mean, this is only the third class that he's had, but this is the third year for that. So, and I think have increased because he originally started out, BOCES put in a whole bill for 5 students in the very first class.
Yeah.
So it continues to grow because they do a CFR for the afternoon session, which are juniors, and then they can go into the EMT for the morning classes. So, I mean, they're doing a little bit, yes, they're looking at putting a similar program up in Wayne County type deal. And again, it's got to get approval through school boards and everything else like that, so, but, I mean, he's been working at it, because they use they're underneath our sponsorship, so.
But I thought maybe go out to these schools around EMS week and do something like it all in our own area,
Well, up until recently, the schools have been locked down, so you can't get in there anyway, so, I mean, that might be slowly changing.
I think that coupled with some of the earn as you learn programs too, you hire somebody based off of their character to come to EMS, not necessarily because they have an EMT card. If an agency can afford to pay them while they're in class, that's huge. I think AMR Rochester just graduated their first all-female earners.
Yeah, it was like 10 or 12.
Yeah.
Well, Finger Lakes did that a few years ago.
Yeah.
They hired them to be drivers while they were in class. But that would be my public relations report, I guess.
Yeah, fix it.
All right, the next is actually REMAC. Who went to REMAC?
Jason's in that. I did. I think I sent them out.
There's nothing substantial.
Nothing substantial.
Nope.
All right, then we'll go from there. We'll go right to state council.
We meet the 12th and 13th of April.
What about legislative?
Larry's not here.
Spanky, where are you? Come on.
I did send, as far as legislative review goes, sent out a couple months ago to the full council list the 30-day revised version of Part F of the governor's proposed executive budget. I didn't hear anything back from anybody, but that is out there. There's some pretty interesting language in Part F of the proposed budget, so I think think if anybody was to pick the largest issue for legislation as far as EMS goes right now, it's probably part of. Unless Brian knows of something else, but it's probably all part of. Yes.
If it stays in the budget.
Correct.
Correct.
So just amended that.
John, you're up.
So, our conference was in February. I think it went pretty good. We ended up with around 60 people for the 2 days. Really good lectures. We're already looking towards next year and see how we can make it better and provide additional things. Still reviewing the reviews. But other than that, I think all went well as far as that. Working on a couple things with Dr. Click as far as training and setting up a CME program where each month we'll ask for an agency to provide a CME opportunity. So we're still trying to hash out the logistics of it and what it's going to look like, but more to follow on that. And you should have been in your emails. We're again this year looking for nominations for the Vital Science EMS Awards. The submissions need to be in by May 1st so that we can get them sent out to the state of New York. If anybody is looking, there's multiple different categories. Just do the write-up and submit it back to us, and we'll bring it to the council meeting at the end of May for council.
You guys have my report over here, so any questions?
Any questions, any concerns about this report? Anything else you want to know about the report? All right, the last one is actually nominating, which is myself. And we have one, that wants to come on. Amy Hopkins would be this person's name. She is with Mercy Flight. Yeah. And we need to see about bringing her in. If we do bring her in, she'll go into the Ontario County slot, and the Ontario County slot will end, and she'll have to be reappointed in September, the year of the meeting. So we need to order in if you guys would like.
Or ask any questions.
Do we only have the one open seat now?
No, there's one additional.
They should be on that. Speak up.
We would not be full again.
No, we're still definitely not full.
Okay.
We're still at least shy, at least one. Amy's in the back. If anybody wants to ask her any questions, we can do that.
I'd love to nominate her in.
Yeah, she's gotta leave the room first.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess I have to leave.
Get out of here.
Okay.
Need a roll call for this, right?
Yeah.
Roll call for this, right? Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Daryl Bailey,
Yes.
Ryan Bailey,
Yes.
Laura Brewer,
Yes.
Aaron Burns,
Yes.
me, yes, Jeremy Harris, you, Katie Holt,
Yes.
Betty Hubbard,
Yes.
David Hubbard,
Yes.
Fiona,
Yes.
Sandy Johnson,
Yes.
Gloria Lansdale,
Yes.
Bill Little,
Yes.
Kevin Lundquist,
Yep.
Brian Mace,
Yes.
Mike Moss,
Yes.
Rich Mumford,
Yes.
Terry Phillips,
Yes.
Ben Pearson,
Yes.
Aaron Reese, Tad Smith,
Yes.
Matt Spool,
Yes.
Eric Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Vice Chair passes unanimously with all present.
All right, thank you very much. Amy, you want to come back in?
Indeed, sir.
Did she hear you?
I would have rang the bells of
Thanks
St.
for
Mary's.
listening, everybody. Thanks for
That, folks, is our next.
Congratulations.
All right, from that, do we have any unfinished business from 2 months ago or farther back? The only things I've got in here is something from the state council and.
So the only, the state council, we had to submit, this was presented to the executive, we had to present, applicants for, to be our state council reps. Apparently, the way the bureau was handling it was not entirely according to the process that was established. So they had to, they asked for the regions to submit candidates for state council. So we received interest from Aaron Reese, Jason Haig, and Dave Howell, and we just forwarded 3 of their names and the state can choose who the representatives.
Which is a rapid phone
Right. I mean, Jason's our current rep. He is starting his 3rd term, and he's eligible for 2 more years, and then he has to step down anyways. But we submitted it. Even if they choose somebody else, Jason's still seated because he's the vetted member for the region until such time as the next person is vetted.
Which is like a year-long process.
Yeah. So it's not, we're not, by any stretch of imagination, kicking Jason to the wayside.
Darwin's kicked him. Absolutely. No.
So
You can fresh bread.
just to let everybody know that we did do that, and they had to be in by March 1st or somewhere in that neighborhood. So yeah, that had to be
The only other thing was that state EMS awards that were mentioned, so we're all set with that. All right, moving on, and we're going to go to, is there any new business?
one thing. So, starting with our May meetings, we will be back in Geneva in our office. The college has recently adjusted the number of folks allowed in the rooms, and so we'll be moving back there. We could not be notified you guys in time to get you back there for it.
Cool.
I have a question, just a general question. How is the 3-person medical director working out? That's in
So far, so good. Dr. Surratt is engaged with RSI activities. The committee meets regularly, like every other month. And they're beginning to take a look at training opportunities for those individuals. Dr. Glenn and I actually met this morning, and we're creating a new continuing education program that we want to offer, and we're also looking at an addition to our, we're going to call it the Quality Metrics Committee, looking at some different, taking a different twist to chart review, and putting all this back on the committee to kind of present unique cases, etc. So, Dr. Talbot is invited with the DOH. He's planning on attending the state council meeting, and he's doing that responsibilities.
In other words, so far so good. All right, is there any other new business? Anybody? All right, then the next thing we go go to is correspondence.
So the only thing is our enforcements that we received from the DOH. So we have the City of Long Beach Fire Department in Long Beach, New York. They were assessed a $2,000 civil penalty for violations of 10 NY CRR Part 800.13 K subset 2 and an 800.23 subset F. And then there was a violation of this individual voluntarily surrendered their certification on 3/9/22 for violations of 800.16A, A5, and last name is Coronel, Captain Coronel of Yaphank, New York.
Don't know where that is.
There's where one of the 3,500 or 1,000 All right, is there anything else we need to go over from anybody? If not, then Ted, it's your call.
The meeting be adjourned.
Get all the.
Ted, 35 seconds off.
What's that? August 2nd.
All right.
Meeting adjourned 19.